Good morning. My name is Okwui Enwezor, and I'm the director of Haus der Kunst. It's great to see all of you here this morning for what I hope is going to be a very dynamic, exciting, intellectually rich, as well as critically engaging set of discussions and presentations today and, of course, continuing tomorrow. We have one symposium, but in a sense, one can also see the 2 days as two separate symposia. But nevertheless, it's important to sort of to think them together, simply because of the way in which the subjects that will be the topics of reflection over the coming 48 hours are entangled. And that is, what uses do we make of history? What uses do we make of images? How do we think of history? How do we think about images? How can images become, tools not only simply of spectatorial engagement, but tools of critical inquiry into the very condition of contemporary and modern society. On the other hand, one can also think about the way in which history itself accrues a set of phantoms that come to haunt the historical imagination, precisely because in an institution like Haus der Kunst, one can say that we live in the shadow of these phantoms. What I hope will occur over the next few days is not an attempt at exorcism, but an attempt to dispel those phantoms and to come to the concrete matter of how an institution like Haus der Kunst can become historically and active rather than being simply positioned in the past. Let me just simply say that this symposium also is being reflected not only inside this room, but out there in the world where there are many other people who are watching, and we are tweeting the symposium. The hashtag is Haus der Kunst. So if you are tweeting from inside this room, the hashtag is Haus der Kunst. So I was told to make this announcement. In any case, it's really my distinct privilege and honor to welcome the speakers who will be presenting this morning and all through the day and tomorrow. The first proceeding today concerns an exhibition that will open this evening. It's called Bild gegen Bild, Image Counter Image. Image Counter Image is chiefly concerned with the uses of or reflections upon media representations of conflict across the world. The exhibition is set in the paradigmatic moment of this shift during the first Gulf War in 1990. Of course, let me just simply say that here in Germany, I've just learned that the first Gulf War was not in 1990, rather the first Gulf War was in the 80s. So this is where the context of history begins to emerge. But nevertheless, here the first Gulf War is understood as Desert Storm, and the way the apparatus of media gave us a completely new picture of what it means to be not only on the front lines of reportage, but the images that come to us in such relentless flow asks us the question of what profit of knowledge can accrue to the public's perception of conflict, who controls the image's regime of visibility, and more importantly, the image's discursive spaces. To report from the battlefield of a war is to see the unfolding events of battle from a specific vantage point. Each vantage point reproduces another or mirrors it, doubles it, till what it is seen and reflected becomes a concatenation of refractions and reflections that blur or dissolve the very knowledge the image seeks to transmit. It thus requires a separate discipline of looking and thinking about images of conflict to bring them back to the realm of critical accountability. And this is what I hope the exhibition in its proposal will do in the course of its unfolding in the next few months. But here it is not only about images and their makers who are implicated, but the gazes that see and read the images, that is to say, us, our own critical accountability. So we have responded to this in various ways by suggesting that the regime of the image always seems to compel the receiver of the image or the participant in its analysis towards a materialized explication that begins with what may be designated as the rules of evidence, namely that the image's form and content be neatly disaligned from its embeddedness in media. And this is why this exhibition is not about countering one image with another, but about responding to the various entanglements of the image in the process through which it enters into the world. The second symposium, which begins tomorrow, Histories and Conflict, Haus der Kunst, and Ideological Uses of Art, 1937 to 1955, asks of us of what the material of history is made of and whether we can work with this material. From the moment it opened its doors in the summer of 1937 as Haus der Kunst, and since its reopening after the war in 1946, the museum has evolved in a sequence of historically contingent moments. And I think this dimension of contingency is something that I believe really marks this very institution, its building, its relationship to its makers, and the will by subsequent generations to reflect and think actively about this place. So contingency is a useful and productive term to use to examine both the way in which this house participated in the attempt to abolish the legacy of the avant-garde, but also the way it has participated in trying to renew our relationship not only to modernism, but to contemporary art, to the work of artists who, in both their eccentric and, if you will, critical refusal of convention, have made the field of contemporary art a place of active reflection. So what I will, hope is that this opportunity to think about different ways in which the image and, of course, history travels through institutions will give us many, many things to think about. Before I get off the stage, I would like to use the opportunity to thank the makers of the exhibition, the curators who really have produced two exhibitions of extraordinary quality and complexity. For Build, Build, Patricia Dander, Julian Laws, Leon Krempel, and Ulrich Wilmes They deserve our gratitude for the great work they have done. And for Histories in Conflict, again, I'm very, very delighted to have had the opportunity to follow the work that Sabine Brantel and Ulrich Wilmers have done in putting together this exhibition. Histories in Conflict is going to be on view for the next till next January, giving us an opportunity, in a sense, to enrich our own understanding of the exhibition. And of course, finally, the artists that we invited to help us in thinking about various structures of understanding the history of Haus der Kunst. Christian Philipp Müller did not only orchestrated the devices through which the exhibition can be seen, but he also made a number of critical interventions into the building, the archive. So I would like to thank Christian Philipp Müller very much as the guest artist for this particular exhibition. And of course, all the speakers and all of you welcome. I hope that the proceedings today will generate a lot of interest in the next few days. Thank you so much. Let me invite Ulrich Wilmers to introduce the next panel. Yeah,